Welcome to the Startup Grind.
I'm going to basically make these opening remarks, and then I'm going to ask Chris one question. He's going to answer that, 30 seconds, 3 minutes, whatever he wants, and you're going to learn a little bit about him and his perspective and things like that. And you may have already come wanting to talk to him, want to meet him, and you ask a question. And then after that first session, who's here to heard of Steve Blank, Customer Centered Development? Raise your hand. Very good. So like what he says, go ask your customer. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you all, what do you all want me to ask him? And I'm not going to say, you answer a question, I'm going to answer it. It's not like that. It kind of weaves it into the conversation, okay? And I'm going to do my best to remember what everybody said. And at the end, classic Q&A. And then after that, anyone here can stand up and say, this is what help I'm looking for, and this is the help that I can give someone else. And it is not an advertisement for your business. And who remembers Chuck Barris and the Gong Show? Anybody? Yeah, so I'm the gong, right? So you got to be cool about it. Don't sit up there and kind of droll on about your business. It's literally, how can you help someone and what help are you looking for? Because that's a lot of the ethos of Startup Grind. Mark Bunting, who's a really cool guy, a friend of mine, he was going to be here on February 20th. He's now going to be out of town then, so we've got an open slot for February. I'm about to book one for March, and then on the 4th of April, Joshua Bear from Capital Factory is going to come up. They've opened up, or they're opening up. Are they official yet, or not yet? Or?
They have signed up for that.
Yeah, so they've already started. But very successful program in Austin. They're migrating that to Dallas, and he's going to be our guest on April 4th. And last thing I want to know is, how did you all find out about tonight? Just yell out. I don't, Email? Friend?
Versus Facebook.
Facebook? What? Meetup? Okay.
Meetup.
Cool. All right. We always kind of want to know. So once again, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
I don't get into your sign and where you came from, and people, if they want to do that, they can read about it, right? Starting and running a business is called Startup Grind, not Startup Joy, right? Because it can be a grind. So what is it that is your passion and that gets you a speeding ticket coming to work? Because as you know, some days you're going to hit a shitstorm and you know it. Some days you just can't wait to get to the office for other reasons. But what really drives Chris McFarland?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I can tell you that for me, the journey's been just an incredible journey, but more importantly, it's getting up and knowing that the work that you're doing, especially when you're building a new product or a new service or pioneering something, is the fact that you're building something that somebody sees value in, and more importantly has a positive impact on that community that you're serving. So that for me is the reason why I still, like I would say 19 out of 20 days, I'm really excited to go to work. We strive in our company to try to have 4 out of 5 days for all of our employees. We want them to be up and wake up inspired and excited to go to work. But as we all know, not everybody, you can't have a great day every day. And if you're an entrepreneur, there's a lot of days that go really bad.
Exactly. And so just to build on that a little bit, so it's really kind of product focused and that impact that the product has on the community?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my entire career has been building information technology services, one form or fashion. So for me, it's knowing that the services that we've sold, which for me, that's really kind of part of the broader IT stack, are things that drive other people's businesses or help facilitate. And like most recently over the last, half a dozen years, we've all been really focused on how do we shift, especially enterprise IT, from these premise-based platforms to the cloud. And our company's really been focused on enabling that transition through the network and cybersecurity and unified comms, but it's that trickle-down effect that you see. So if you know that you've got something that's exponential, in nature in terms of the impact that you can have, that's what excites me. Like building products is cool, but only if you've got people who will utilize them, but more importantly, that it's meaningful to how they operate their business, especially if you have stuff that's widely diverse across a lot of different vertical industries, because it's just really cool. I've been able to be fortunate enough over the last decade to, do business with about, a third of the Fortune 1000 in the country. And when you look at it across the globe, it's about 20% of the top 5,000 companies in the world that utilize our platform. So it's really cool just to be able to learn about their businesses and the challenges that they have. And you get to see everybody on these different journeys, but they're actually really similar journeys across different very, very different businesses.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, you want to do the mic for this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. That, can you hear me now? I don't think so. Hello? I can, you want me to talk text it? I can talk text.
Text it if you like me to. There we go. There we go.
Hello?
Get her done. Okay. So now you know a little bit about Chris. What are just some of the general questions or just themes that you want to hear from him tonight? Raise your hand and probably. Who's going to go first? Come on. There we go, in the back.
I'll go first. Your sales strategy. How do you reach your potential clients? I guess from when you guys first started to as you grow bigger and bigger, and how do you shift your strategy?
Okay, so early sales strategy and how do it changes at scale?
Correct.
That's a really good question. Others? Yes.
Direction of cybersecurity trends in the future.
Okay, just macro cybersecurity things. You don't know anything about that. do you? Okay. We won't cover that one. Yes.
How many companies have you started, and what were some of your
Basically, how effective is your entrepreneurial gene?
how many wins and losses did you
Good one. Yes.
On the days that you go bad or don't feel so great, like the one day at 19 when you don't want to go to work, I guess my question is, how do you get out of that funk and then move on? And, you don't want to like stay thinking, oh, this person burned me or blah, 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 I made a bad decision. I mean, just, what do you do to...
How do you just keep going?
Yeah, how do you keep going?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a very good question. Others? You can think of those others. One, two, anybody else? Quiet crowd. Okay, yes, Mr. McCoy.
Sure, and I may have missed it.
Yep.
I'm not going to call. Can you say the product, what does your product do? I mean, why do these people want you to come see them?
So
Did you say what your
we'll
product
probably
does?
start with that. Anybody else? One other? Yes.
From how do you transition from a startup mindset to the growing and scaling of your?
Oh, that's easy. It's just a simple answer.
Is that
You got a week? Okay. So let me give you all a little framework, and actually Chuck's a good one to start out with, and we'll move in. So Masergy, formed I think 2000. Barry Knowles. You guys have gone through two what I call cap table change control changes, maybe more, but two, or three, that you've been kind of intimately involved in from 2008. He originally came on as a COO. Now he's the chief cook and bottle washer. So he gets to do a lot of different things in the business, kind of set the strategy. A couple $100 million in revenue, about 500 employees roughly.
350 million in revenue.
So he's public accounting. Okay.
Yeah, 600 employees, growing in the mid-teens.
Very cool. So they are really well positioned in terms of moving the enterprise into the cloud, running that in cybersecurity piece. So I think from a strategy standpoint, from a timing standpoint, maybe the early years were difficult, but you kind of really hit your stride as you came on board and did that, right?
Yeah, the years are just as hard as they've ever been. When I go back in time just briefly so that you can get a little bit more texture on my background. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Started my first company in college. Actually dropped out of college as a junior.
UTA?
Yeah, University of Texas Arlington, so, metropolitan computer science engineering area. Learned how to program a few different languages before I was 12. This was back before there were a lot of video games. So you didn't have much of a choice if you wanted to use a PC. But the company that we have today, I wasn't the original founder. So it was an interesting journey because the venture capital partners in the business had backed me in a company in the 90s called Vario. And so my first two businesses were kind of small, regionally focused businesses. Were successful by any stretch of the imagination, sold them, did well. But then right about the time the internet was really starting to gain traction in terms of business and individual applications. And so we started a company that went out and acquired a lot of regional ISPs, rolled them up to the public. NDT acquired it for just right at $6 billion. Wasn't super scaled, 0 to about 480 million in revs. And then we did a competitive telephone company out of the CLEC, the Telecom Act of 1996. We grew it from nothing to 800 million in about 5 years. and it was 100% organic growth. So that's where those are the two companies where I got my trauma fire MBA versus the startup days that we're going on there. And ever since then, I've been involved in some other businesses, but it's kind of cool because the Masergy story was like, I didn't found it, I didn't set the original product strategy or the original culture, but I got to go in and have to fix it all because the investors in the business were getting to be long in the tooth.
I think you were in about 11 years, 9 years?
I got them out at year 11, and at year
That's
10.
a long time for a venture guy
Yeah.
to be locked up.
Well, that, and it was a vintage 2000 company. So everybody remembers the Great Recession here, 2008, but 2000 was not a good time to be starting a tech company, especially in the DFW metroplex.
You guys probably returned the fund for them.
I returned the entire fund plus some for them. So
So, Barrio, were you a founder of Barrio?
I was employee number 6.
Okay, so Jeff Smith, who's
He's
my
a
wife.
great, yeah, he's a great friend of mine.
He's not very smart either. Another PhD.
Yeah.
You gotta write it down and, he's slow.
Yeah, he went back and finished his PhD, right?
Yeah.
too, so.
Yeah, he's doing some really cool things in the IoT space. So kind of to Chuck's point, kind of talk about the early days of Masergy and early strategy, what did they do and how has it changed? And then especially when you came on board, you came on because there were issues, right? It wasn't like things were running great and hey, just, kind of keep the rudder straight. You had to do probably some pretty tough things. Talk about
Yeah, some really, really tough things. So I'll set the stage for you. Company was started, Barry, who was the founder, almost a lifelong employee for GTE, which is now Verizon, saw this opportunity to build a networking service aimed at large enterprises because back in 2000, if you were wanting to operate across the world, you couldn't get a seamless infrastructure to really support your business communications platform. So way ahead of his time, pioneered a bunch of technology. Went out and won several meeting companies, including Barclays Bank back in 2004, which really built the company from an infrastructure standpoint in terms of that lead anchor tenant that you need to kind of have a real super catalyst. And then just had some challenges with sales, product innovation, reliability, like all these things that are necessary for a discerning enterprise. And Barry and the board were not necessarily really cohesive for like a few years. And so he decided that it was time for him to look to other opportunities because he was a serial entrepreneur as well. And the board at that time were looking to just get out. Like how do we get out? And Barry had grown it from nothing to, let's call it around $90 million, kind of between $90 and $100 million. They had gone up and down for a couple of years. And so I was brought in on a 30-day consulting contract.
And Lauren is 51% is back there, right? So always the enabler.
Yeah.
30 days, right?
Yeah, 30 days. And, I went in and said, okay, there's some real technology here. There's a path to get at least your money back out of the business. But it's going to take some time because you don't have the right go-to-market strategy. You've got 2 or 3 leaders that are just fighting with each other, which is just unhealthy from a cultural standpoint. And I was actually in the process of starting another business. And they're like, well, can't you just run it for a year and get it to this point? And, we'll give you X% of the company. We'll let you buy some of the company if you want to buy it. And you'll be back and you can still go do your next startup. And I had a couple friends that were in the business, so I said, sure. And then about 6 months into it, I was like, there's more than just a business to sell here. There's a business that I can see some long-term sustainable growth.
Why?
And the reasons why were they had built some differentiated technology instead of just being, most telecommunication companies to that point would go to companies like Alcatel-Lucent or Fujitsu or Cisco Systems or Siemens, and they would buy their technology, put it into their data center or their wire centers, and then sell services based upon software that they bought from other people. They just were really integration stuff, built from multi-disc, but they'd actually written some software around analytics. And if you think about it, this is about the time that big data was starting to be a little bit of the hype cycle buzz that was going out there. But they had like real analytics. Matter of fact, they had built some technology that would look at every packet and drop the payload, but keep the header information. And I'm getting a little bit technical here, but they were able to give people application insights and exactly how applications were being used across the world on a very specific enterprise. And it's like, wow, this is what we actually should be leading with, is deep insights around analytics. And then let's build the software so that they can change the way their network behaves on the fly. Nobody had done this at this point. It's like, this is before software-defined networking was even discussed. And so we went down this path of like, how can we innovate? And then, I got rid of the leaders that were not good for the culture.
I call them boils in the acid progress.
Yep, yeah. They're either sales prevention mode or CYA mode. And I brought in some of my own team, and we said, okay, let's just think about what we want this business to be. And we were all, kind of, mid-30s, had been successful in other businesses, had been able to, build, a decent-sized nest egg. And we're like, why don't we just operate this company and build it like the last company we were going to have? And because of the Vario experience and Legion's Telecom experience, and I was one of the original guys at a company called Broadsoft, it was like, we grew super fast every time, but we took some shortcuts, we took a little bit of risk when we shouldn't have took the risk, just know it was a bad decision. And we're like, let's just operate this thing like it was the last job we'd ever had. So we changed the culture of the company. It took us about a year to get people committed to that, which was another weeding out process. But today, we got a business that sells wide area networking solutions to large enterprises, sells a managed security service to large enterprises, and we've been disruptive in the communication standpoint because we have a cloud-based service that will provide video, voice, instant messaging and collaboration, but really is aimed at getting rid of the PBXs and the video systems. And the way we've done it is all through a unique value proposition and economics that I wouldn't say are super compelling, but more importantly, just offloading all this stuff that was traditional command and control, which IT people and large enterprises have to be really, really strategic, and they got to be a lot more dynamic. And so we're able to deliver reliability and agility. And we're like the first company in our space that's been able to do that. And I feel like if we can sustain that, I've got another decade or 20 years of doing what we're doing today. I don't know if I'll be there the whole time, but I'm going to try to make sure the business is still there.
So one of the first questions was talking about early customers and how you change your sales model. So within the context of frame this, who's your customer in the enterprise? The CIO, CFO, CEO, director of XYZ, or as I like to say, the vice president of chocolate sundaes.
Yeah.
What's your average selling ticket, and then how long does it take, knowing that it can be 1 month or forever? Kind of frame that up.
Yep.
Talk about how that's changed and how you kind of got some of your early customers, and then how you have changed your go-to-market as you all started to scale.
Yeah, no, these are all great questions. I would say on the go-to-market side, the business was largely built through channel partners. The early motions of the business were selling direct, which
Like Siemens and those guys? Or
channel partners like CDW.
Okay. CDW?
Yeah, CDW.
Oh, wow. Big competitor, Dell Computer.
Yep.
Computer Discount Warehouse.
Yep. Companies like traditional telecommunications brokers, which if you're in the industry, you would know some of the names. But the value proposition was how do you invest in people that can articulate the value prop? And the biggest challenge to the channel partners is that they're generally kind of semi-trusted, and they want to keep you away from the customer.
Yeah, if you're too far away from the sale.
Right, so what we learned is that when you've got a piece of technology or a solution set that's really, really differentiated, it's kind of hard enough to train your own salespeople to articulate.
Much less a third party. Right?
Much less a third party. So that was the critical mistake that during the Barry era that they hadn't figured out, which was you had to go convince your channel partners. Because if you're selling to some of the world's largest brands, you can't, we're not like we're Cisco or AT&T where it's easy to make a phone call to the CIO or the head of infrastructure or the chief information security officer and get that meeting. So today, our sales cycles have kind of not ever changed. They're basically a 7-month sales cycle. And because we sell managed recurring revenue type services, which identical to SaaS, kind of got a 7-month period to sell the service, and it takes about 6 months to deliver the solution. So it's a little over a year's worth of time of investment that you have to make into a customer opportunity. So it took a while for me to articulate the economics of why it was important for us to add that next half dozen or dozen, or nowadays we're adding, 30 salespeople a year, net 30 salespeople a year to the business.
So the lesson there is you don't want to abdicate your sales to a third party. A lot of people think, oh, I'll just do that because they've got the relationship and makes it easy. It's not. It makes it even more complex and more difficult, and also less sustainable than owning it. But then owning it, you have longer sales cycle, you have a bigger investment in the sales staff, you have a bigger investment in training. But then what you can do is you can sell a value because a lot of these third-party companies, they're just going to sell the quickest commissions they can make. It's not like they're invested in what you're doing to the nth degree. Is that
Right, and they've got a broad portfolio of other products and services, so you're trying to figure out how do you drive the mind share, how do you build mind share, how do you sustain it. So then you have to sell the end user, but you've got a partner in the middle that you have to develop. And listen, we've been really fortunate that one of my executives had mastered that process in a prior endeavor, so we were able to supercharge that process fairly rapidly and be really, really successful. But it is by far a road less traveled. If you can sell mostly direct, I would encourage everybody to go down that path. And we've shifted gears over the years where we're not completely 50-50, but we're headed down a path where about half our sales will be direct, half our sales will be through channel partners.
Yeah, it's not too dissimilar to portfolio allocation. You don't want to be all in large cap or all in small cap. You have to have some balance because you want to basically be selling umbrellas and sunscreen at the same time, right? Depending on things.
Yeah, well, in our case, it was just a little bit similar, which is you really need to understand the market opportunity. Like what geos, what's the market opportunity? You start with that, and then from that you got to map down where you're going to put sales resources versus your solution set. And then from there, you got to find people who can articulate the message. And what we saw about 6 years into the business was there was a bunch of the Fortune 500 that we just weren't seeing through any of our channel partners. We're like, okay, well, if we want to go win, Exxon, we're going to have to go out to them direct, and we're going to have to figure out how to get into Exxon. And none of our channel partners could get there. So for us, it was just real simple. We wanted to at least have an opportunity to get to know everybody, because everybody needs network, everybody needs, managed security, everybody will need unified comms. So being able just to get the at-bats was the biggest challenge in terms of how we looked at scaling up our go-to-market strategy. And it's something that I can tell you, we've still got another probably 6 or 7 years before we'll be able to at least touch 100% of the market just in North America. And even in Europe, I'm still early stages, and half of the Western European countries.
So you mentioned security. Dan was asking about that. I'm going to ask that. That's my third question. My second question is going to be your name again. Sorry.
Me?
Yes.
Yvonne.
Yvonne, you've been here before. Thank you very much. About kind of those 5% days, specifically when you're changing the culture. But I do want to touch on one thing that I just personally like to learn. You learn a lot by talking to your customer. Talk about your all's viewpoint. Like Steve Jobs said, hey, if we talk to our customers all the time, famous, then you talk to the horse and buggy people, they want a faster horse. They don't come up with a combustion engine. There are two ways to look at that. So when you all move from pure channel to direct customer, you're now engaged in probably much deeper conversations about the problems that they're trying to solve. And did you find them helpful in this case or not? Because I could see answer going both ways.
Yeah, I would say that the company's been mostly customer driven in terms of growth, in terms of where we invest in new, either enhancements to the existing solution set or actually totally new solutions. Because when I came in, we were just a networking business. I bought a small cybersecurity business, and we were able to grow that rapidly. Same thing in the UC space. Really bought tech platforms, made it enterprise class, and then got after the market. But all of this was really based upon customer feedback, and it's been really, really interesting. Not that we focus so much on what the customer wants and how do we add value, but we made sure that the solutions were something that made sense today, but we knew as they walked down their journey that it would make sense a year or 2 years out. We would continue to try to innovate in a way so that we're constantly balancing things out. The first thing I did when we changed the culture, I said, listen, just to be clear, I'm a technologist. However, I believe fundamentally sales, the business begins and ends with sales. So everybody on the executive team has to be out in the field. Now, they don't have to be out in the field every day or every week or even every month. But even my CFO goes on sales calls from time to time and articulates part of our value prop and sponsors a particular project way before we close the sale. And so it was this culture that You know, my largest competitor is AT&T, their enterprise division. Well, as you might guess, even unless it's the largest top 10 customer for them, they don't, CEO doesn't go out, you know, Randall doesn't go see many customers. Great guy, great company, by the way. But it's this mindset that if you're not close to the customer and know exactly what they're doing, especially in a world where innovation timelines are compressing, then how do you really know that what you're doing is right? How do you know that the solution that you deliver and the service that you're giving to a master is actually working? You just hear it straight from the customer.
So, one of Chris's close friends is Lance Crosby, sold a business called Software. Chris and Lauren were here. I don't know, was anybody here when I interviewed Lance a couple years ago? No? So there you go. Thank you. She's awesome. So this is a great story. You may remember this. So Lance sells Software to IBM. He's there for some short amount of time, and he's it's very, very clear that these very senior executives that report to the CEO have no freaking clue what the customer is thinking, etc. So what did he do? In true Lance format, he got a white rocking chair, and the rocking chair said customer, and he got one for every single senior executive. He gave it to them and said, you need to sit in that chair every single day, not only think about it, but go see more customers, because nobody at IBM goes and actually talk to the customer. Does that sound like it? I'll never forget that story. Keep on going there, but Yvonne asked a really good question. Those 5% of days, when you know it's difficult, the one that I would ask you to share, if you can, is the CEO transition out is never easy, and CEOs the founders can make it really easy, they can make it really difficult. And so that's a difficult time, or it can be extremely difficult. Another one is when you're really trying to change culture. And we never like firing people, but when you are really in the throes of the crucible of changing the culture, and you knew that this was difficult, what is it that, I assume it's you were just new because of your background, you knew where the company would go, you knew the tools that you needed to get there, and so it wasn't like you didn't have a lot of conviction, but that didn't mean that you didn't have some insecurities, or like, hey, am I doing the right thing, or am I keeping the right people, etc. Kind of talk about that.
Absolutely. So I'll first talk about the bad days, then we'll talk a little bit about the people side of the equation, because people do make the difference after you figured out that you got something that people will buy in terms of who you surround yourself with. So even now, you know, I'm not a big fan of surprises at all. And in business, I want bad news to travel as fast as the speed of light, because you need to sometimes pivot based upon bad news. So when I get really upset or a little bit demotivated is because there's been a series of events occur for which somebody somewhere in the organization should have told me, and then it was shielded from me because everybody thought it would get better or go away, or they'd hope it would be, and it doesn't. And all of a sudden, by the time I learn about it, it's like, okay, well, we've had a systematic set of failures occur, and that's one of the most demotivating factors when you've established all these methods, processes,
Culture.
You know, the company's won, you know, all these awards for growth and customer satisfaction and employee, you know, satisfaction, and you're like, wow, how did we get here? And what took place. And then the part that's the hardest part is the people part of the equation. So as you're growing the business at the very start, you know, you got to make some hires, some key people to help you do different things with the company. In fact, most people you get early on and have to do 2 or 3 different types of jobs and work, you know, a lot more than 40 hours a week. But as you get from 0 to $1 million, right around the $1 million mark, you typically have to look at, okay, I need to start splitting off some of these jobs. I need to hire somebody that's not just the finance person and the HR, you know, helping with HR. I need somebody that can do sales, but not necessarily helping build a platform anymore, build the software. Most people, as anybody else will tell you, their opinion of themselves is typically a little higher than the reality.
Hey, 79% of Americans think they're above average.
Exactly, right? And the good news is that I know all entrepreneurs see the world very, very differently, which is super, super optimistic, which I think that gets back to the fact that 19 out of 20 days, you're ready to conquer the world, and you got to wake up with that type of energy. I don't have as much energy as Lee has at 6:30 in the evening. I was impressed by your ability to be hyped up tonight. But so you got to just have that constant energy. But as as you become more successful, or you have challenges, you always have to just be realistic about what's taking place. And when you find somebody who's not a part of the culture, but doesn't have the ability to grow, and you know that they're not going to be happy in the new role that you're trying to get them to agree to take, or a little bit less responsibility, this are just hard conversations to have. And then, you know, for me, you know, I don't take everything personally. I'm pretty business-minded, but it's such a personal discussion you have to have. I just don't like having those discussions. So, however, if you're going to be successful, you got to have the ability to have what, you know, they call fierce conversations about what is the reality of the situation and what's coming, in order to make sure that you've got a healthy organization. There's another part of that question.
There are. So think about this, and I'm going to make a comment. So think about like the most harrowing moment of the business. Like maybe it's an existential crisis early on or late or whatever. I know there's, you know, you had some ideas about selling the business, things like that, that, you know, they came to the 5-yard line. So think about that, but frame it up with this. What I took away from that is go, and Oracle, we talked about this as well, go ugly early. Because the earlier you go and it's ugly, the more options you have. If you let things fester, then you have typically fewer options. And that's whether you're talking to your board, you're talking to your key employees, you're talking to the market. The earlier you go ugly with information, then the more options you'll have. Take it early. And personal thing, I'm trying to teach my son that, so this is also here. He had an accident a week and 3 days ago. He's only called the adjuster back one time. And like, Luke, you have to go, you know, yeah, you call him back once, but you have to do it until you've given him all the information because it was his fault, right? And so that's a hard lesson for a lot of people to learn because they don't want to face it. They want to delay it thinking it's going to mollify itself or it's going to go away. And you just heard from the CEO of a very successful business, some of the most disappointed he gets is when we have these breakdowns and people don't come forth with bad information, with negative situations. And you know, you just have to live up to them early.
Yeah, getting people to fail fast or get information flows to move fast, I think one of the biggest challenges in any thriving, growing organization, no matter the size. You asked about the transition in. I was really got kind of lucky. They had already decided to part ways before I joined. So he was no longer affiliated with the business, wasn't on the board. You know, and I'll tell you that like the second day after I was past the first 30-day consulting agreement, I called him and I said, hey, can we have lunch? He actually still wanted to be a really decent size of the business, so he was motivated to spend some time with me. And we sit down, had lunch. It was the first time I met Barry. I was like, Barry, I just want to know what is screwed up from your perspective. First, as you might suspect, he had big issues with the board. And a few of the
I'm sure you didn't hear anything about that.
No. But he shared some of the good things and the challenges that he saw. And I said, I just want you to know that I'm going to do everything I can to create value here and get a fairly quick exit. I might need your help from time to time. He said, sure, I'll help. I never called him back. I had another lunch with him after we sold the company that time. And I actually took a much larger ownership position because I gained so much. I went from there to having some conviction to by 2011 have huge conviction about the future. And it was not.
It was a 3-year process for him.
It was a 3-year process, 30-day consulting gig for 3 years. But the best thing that happened to the company was that we found the right capital partner that was willing to invest in growth and a management team that was committed enough that instead of taking money off the table, we all put more money into the business so that we'd have more ownership.
Firms love to see that.
Yeah, firms love to see it. And so the first time we sold the business, we sold it for a couple $100 million. The last time we sold it, the transaction value was just right at $1 billion. And the current plan is to get it to $3 billion, by 2021.
So let me share with you guys a framework to think about investors, and that's going to lead into my next question here. So imagine this line right here is the cost of capital, okay? You have, and this is not series investment, this is stage. So don't think it's like a stage A company, a series A investment. Think about this as a stage. You have A stage companies that don't return to cost of capital. You have B stage companies
that are growing very, very rapidly. This is what Wall Street values. They value growth over everything else, not profits. Look at Amazon, look at USA Today, many years. They want to see growth. And then you have stage C companies, which have a little growth left in them, maybe cyclical, but they're really good cash cows. They typically do dividends, things like that. Utilities are really good examples of that. General Electric is the only company in the original Dow 30 that's still in business. That's a great example of a stage C company. Stage D company are kind of fading winners. Dell's a great example, right? And I was batch number 244 at Dell for 7 years. For a long time, it was like here, it kind of started to go down. It was PCs, they completely missed the mobile revolution and everything else. But then, they did a buyout. And so the venture guys are here. The private equity guys are generally here, usually not here. It's another type. And then stage D companies are basically losing money. And you can make a lot of money in those, but it's like you got fire in your hand. You got to figure out how you do that. You think about Apple. Apple was a stage D company, went to a stage B. Nokia was a stage D company in the timber sector, went to stage B, right? So what he has is basically a company that's here, right? It's on a wave can grow pretty rapidly, and that's what these investors look for. So when you're looking for capital, you have to understand where you are in the process. Most people in this room are going to be here to here. But as you think about investments, as you think about your friends that are in businesses, the more time you spend qualifying the investor of what they like to spend their time, energy, and effort, where do they add value, what's the background, what companies do they work for, will really help you in finding the right investment partner, which you guys have had to do a couple of times. And so kind of talk about one, two, or the third, whichever one you think is the most interesting that we can learn from in terms of how you went out. You might have hired bankers, you might not. I know you did in one particular case. And bankers have a process, right? Most people in this room aren't going to be hiring bankers, but you've also started businesses. So whatever you think is going to be most appropriate, kind of talk about how you approach finding the right investment partner, because I know you and Lauren have been married a long time, but the average investor is in the deal 7 or 8 years, and I think the average marriage is like 6.
It's
true
full
story.
transparency, we haven't been married that long.
Oh, okay.
I'm on a better administration in my opinion.
Like I said, she's 51% and 49.
Well, I guess the reality of the situation is when you start a business, you use your own cash, your own credit cards. You're not going to get a traditional bank generally to give you any money. So you're usually looking to friends and family.
We call that the MCI round.
Yeah, you do the small strategic round to get you off the ground. And then you try to build some timeline around, okay, if I get it to this certain stage, then I can go to a larger pool of capital to help the company get from this stage to that next stage. And I think it's really, really important as an entrepreneur. You're not going to perfect these various stages. You just need to have in the back of your mind the fact that if I'm successful, it's going to require more capital. That's the way almost all businesses work. Now the good news is that in the last 5 or 6 years, that capital intensity for most software business or most tech businesses has generally declined, which is just the power of the cloud, right? In terms of how it's affecting entrepreneurs, across the world, which is a great thing. But you still need to think about, when do I need capital? Because the things you need capital for early on is like how to build products and services, how to get it to market, and then if you're successful, then you need growth capital. And that's when I would tell you to go start looking at traditional groups that look quasi like venture or maybe even true venture. And that's when you got to just make a decision then that you're taking in strategic money. And when I say strategic money, it's not just investing in you and the team. It's where they want seats or a seat on the board. They want periodic reviews, typically monthly. And they're going to want to have a very vested interest in how the business is progressing operationally. And then how is it doing versus the reason why they invested in the business. But you got to know that anytime you take smart money or strategic money, it starts with being able to articulate an exit for that money. Like how are they going to gain liquidity back? Well, most of the time as an entrepreneur, you're really focused on like just getting the business started and how does it, look in the market. Then you got to think about, well, who's going to be the likely buyer of this? And if there isn't an obvious likely buyer, you got to think like, well, who could potentially want to do this at some point in the day? And you can look way, way past that. But you just want to have optionality in terms of who your investors are at all of those stages. The worst thing that happens for entrepreneurs, it happens to everybody, it happened to me a couple of times, which is you get to a point to where you kind of got something that you feel confident about, and people that you're working with feel really confident about, but the market doesn't have any clue what you're doing. They can't put a comp on you. And I'm not talking about like what your traditional bank, I'm talking like people that are in the tech banking world. They don't look at it, they don't understand. Well, then you're just going to have to find somebody to partner up with you that may not be the right partner. And that's when you got to start looking at it as the CEO. How do I get these people out at the right time and still allow the business to grow and to function? Because there's different investors for different reasons at different times. Now, if you get really lucky and you got a business that everybody loves, or it's easy to understand, you'll have a lot of optionality. And then you got, what I call the world-class problem to have. Because you got so many options, you got to just figure out who's the right partner. Early stages, typically, none of us are that fortunate, at least I haven't been, to find like that perfect partner. But managing the smart money becomes like 10, 15% of your time as the business grows. More and more of your time is allocated back to your investment partners than just operating and managing the business.
Who here is out raising money or thinks they will next year? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay. So if you hear what he's saying, it's really important to do that research to kind of find that right partner because you're going to be with them for a while. The other thing that I would say is, who's here heard of Greylock Investment Partners? Okay. So they were early in LinkedIn, some other companies. They and some others, but they were the first ones to do it from what I heard, did something really interesting. They went back and looked at all their big winners. And some venture firms, it's important to understand when you're talking to, who's heard of something called LPM? Anybody? Other people's money, right? Everybody's invested in him as other people's money, and that's why they wanted out so quickly, because they had been in too long, right? As opposed to other types of capital like family offices and angels who still want to get out, et cetera. But here's my point, is find out, the compensation structure of the people involved, if it's any kind of fund. Is it a equality, like all senior partners make the same? Whether my deal or his deal is successful, we're all making the same? Or is there some kind of eat what you kill concept? Because that's really important to understand. The other one is the investment committee, they have to be unanimous, or they have to have some majority or supermajority? Because that drives behavior when you talk to them. And Greylock did something phenomenal, and I'm sharing with you this because I've always said it'd be really, really interesting, is they went back and they looked at all their huge winners, and they did, okay, what was the investment committee vote? Was it unanimous or was it not? Every single case, it was non-unanimous and it was actually highly contentious. Yep. And the reason is because if you're going to be really successful, you have to know somebody nobody else knows, and you have to be under the radar long enough to build the product, make mistakes, etc. So by the time you have escape velocity, it's kind of too late for other companies to do it. And a really good example is Airbnb. Right? They invested in Airbnb, they were really early on. Everybody here knows about Airbnb, but 10 years ago, as Obama, so it's about 10 years ago. Yeah, millions of people let a stranger into their house and just pay $80 to sleep on the couch. That's a great market, right? No, I mean, that was a very contentious process. And so if you've got something that people don't understand, it's hard for you to communicate, etc., it's really important to get your message down clear and go find an investor and go find somebody that is a real sponsor and has a lot of stroke in that organization to go carry your message, but you also got to build the metrics and everything else, because at the end of the day, if you have something and you know something nobody else knows, and you've got that piece, you can be very successful, but oftentimes people give up or they quit or something like that because they can't really get to the goal line. Do you agree or disagree with any of that?
Oh, no, I agree 100%. In fact, when you're thinking about the business you're about to start, it's really, really good if 100% of your family members think you're partially crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean,
that's true.
It's very early stage business. Up until actually the last Masergy is the first company, of course it was already kind of semi-built, where my family thought I was just like off my rocker for the business I was about to get involved in, which is just a good sign, right? Because if everybody understands what you're going to do before you're going to do it, then there's already too many other people probably in the space or similar enough space. So being able to find something that's really, really unique and sometimes even harder to articulate is not necessarily a bad thing. Just knowing that as time moves on, you're going to have that intersection of where what you're trying to build in reality sets in.
So that leads me to my next question, and we'll ask, Dan was talking about cybersecurity, so we'll talk about that in the end.
what did you know that nobody else knew or that too few people knew about what Masergy could do and be in the market opportunity that kind of led you to say, okay, this is something that is unique and the market really values it?
Yeah, there was two things that I saw as the real opportunities. The first one was they built some software that like had real key information around what applications we're doing. So it's like, okay, well, let's just think about the whole IT stack. Well, networking has always just been considered, speeds and feeds, dumb pipes. And you're like, okay, well, speeds and feeds, all this other information is going on. I think if people really know what's happening with their applications, especially as they start moving where their computers are at, let's just face it, the cloud is somebody else's computer. It's not like it's not a computer. And this stuff has to be connected or interconnected in some form or fashion. And then secondarily, it was like, okay, well, the hardest businesses in the world to conduct business with, besides the government, is like the largest telecommunication companies in the world.
But you're next to the government.
Right.
They kind of are the government.
It's okay, some countries they are. And so it's like, okay, well, why don't we build a customer experience model to where we look like part of their staff instead of this mega, company that believes that you're just fortunate enough to buy the service from us. And so it was real, simple. We just did everything 180 degrees different than what AT&T or what they call, blue ocean marketing. Now there's books written about this.
Y'all read Blue Ocean, Red Ocean? Who's the author? I can't remember the name.
I can't remember the name of it.
It's a very good book. Blue Ocean, Red Ocean. You can make money in both, but there are different rules in a blue ocean, which nobody's in. A red ocean's shark infested, and you can win in both, but you have to have different strategies.
So when we were rebuilding the culture, what we thought the company could be, we were like, okay, well, instead of benchmarking ourselves against AT&T or Verizon or British Telecom, why don't we benchmark customer satisfaction against the world's best brands? So companies like, on the credit card side, American Express, on the tech side, Apple, these really, really world recognizable consumer brands. And that's when we instituted, the Net Promoter Score, and we made a fundamental decision that we were going to compensate everybody on this Net Promoter Score, which is everybody familiar with the Net Promoter Score metric in here?
You want a small story?
Yeah.
Richard Owen and I worked at Dell Computer. I talked to him last week. He's CEO of Satmetrics.
They done a case study on us. It's a real simple thing. You survey your customers from time to time. You ask them a series of questions. Generally 10 questions on it, but the one question you ask them is, what is their willingness to refer you to a friend or colleague? And they scored on a score of 1 to 10. And they have these things called promoters, which are basically, if you score 9 or 10, they're a promoter of your business, i.e. they're advocate. If you 7 or 8, it's indifferent. Anything below a 7 is called a detractor. And so you take all the scores in and you average them out, and it gives you a score. Well, you're probably not going to be shocked, but most of the telecommunications companies in North America are between like 10 and negative 10. You take a world-class company like American Express. Well, at this time when we instituted it, I can tell you definitively, Apple had an NPS of 70, which is like, loyal to a fault, almost cult-like following. Like higher than, I think, many of the religions if they had done the same satisfaction survey. And so when I joined, the first year we did it was 2009, we got a score of 29, which is a little bit better than the tech industry at large, which is about a 25. And then, last year we got a 74, which is the top 1% of all brands and services across the world, regardless of industry. But we made it a part of our ethos, and what we didn't do is we threw away a lot of the other metrics that are still important to capture. But if your customer doesn't really love you, like we didn't have a big brand, and we won't have a big brand. We've got fairly narrow solution sets. If we don't have people that are willing to recommend and refer us, we're just not going to win any more business. And so this other ethos was like, how do you build customers for life? Because people in IT move around. And so we're just like, you add value, you help these people's lives, you have impact. It sounds so common sense, but when you marry that with the technology that is differentiated, it made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, very true. So time to talk about cybersecurity. It's a huge topic. We can go about it a very long time. But it's not something I follow, so I probably can't even ask an intelligent question. maybe, but you can talk about some. So talk about what you think is the most interesting thing that's going on in cybersecurity that people aren't really aware of. That would be important for me to understand as a business owner.
That's actually a really good question. It's actually really broad too. I'll just give you some facts. We got into cybersecurity because we introduced a cloud-based firewall product back in 2009. Our customers adopted it fairly quickly. And in fact, they're like, hey, can you help us with other things? We're like, you may be onto something here. And this is just helping them with traffic, internet traffic, trying to keep bad guys out. And so we started looking at the challenges in the broader market. And the same thing is true today, which is information, just the amount of information is accelerating so fast. I mean, even I, who's been in the tech world for, coming on 30 years, I have a time keeping up with the pace of change across all the different IT stacks and then what's taking place with the younger companies that are really innovating. Well, what's going on there is the same thing that's happened with cybersecurity, which is, the people that are, the bad actors across the globe, which is in many cases now foreign nations. There's been a tremendous amount of innovation of like, how do we break in? How do we steal stuff? And then how do we do it where we don't get caught?
Yeah, that's it. Stealth.
Right? Yeah, so it's this whole stealth thing. And so we lived in a time period where people were just unaware that there was tons of data that was stolen. And that really, nothing's really that secure. I think Edward Snowden really helped bring to light like what our government was kind of doing. Not completely, but a lot of things that they had. Because our government, and I'm as patriotic as they come, but we are a really bad actor at the government level in terms of breaking into other people's infrastructure.
Stuxnet.
Right, the Stuxnet, which, there's a lot of that's good stuff for us, in my opinion. But fast forward to where we're at today. Today, on the dark web, which we search every week, we try to crawl the whole dark web in our business. You can buy these toolkits for $50 that were probably like one of the most advanced pieces of malware or spyware or however you want to designate it that was available anywhere like a year ago. And the technology that's been promoted by the cybersecurity manufacturers, people that make firewalls or your desktop antivirus, which I can tell you right now doesn't work, okay? Because it's signature based. And the pace of innovation on things to break in is way faster than people can figure out how to prevent it. So we sit there and looked at this challenge and said, you know what, there's a different set of things that are coming because of technology. One is it's a signal to noise ratio that we're trying to figure out. Because when you go back and look at like JCPenney, the Target were some of the earliest big breaches. And if they would have looked at one of the 30 systems that was supplying information, they would have seen an alert that said, hey, something's going on here. And so almost all of the big breaches that we've heard about could have been prevented if somebody was able to see that alert. The problem is that they bought so many different security systems, they're literally getting like 1 billion alerts a day. So if you think about that, well, how do you figure out, how do you find a needle in the haystack? Because it's really what's taking place here. And we found a team of people that have been writing some machine learning technology and had some data scientists that took a different approach, which is, what if you could predict the future in the data world? And so we've got technology, there's about 1,200 algorithms, there's really about a half a dozen that matter, that we actually have patents on. And we're able to take in almost any type of data, and from that data, it starts learning the behavior of things. And so today for enterprises, we're able to take from the enterprise data center or the cloud, ingest all their data, and start building these models that are simulating what we think the next second of information would be. I know a second doesn't sound like a long time. If you translate it to how we see things, it's about a year's worth of time. The second of data is like a year's worth of human time. And so we make this prediction of what we think that next second is, and when it's something that wasn't predicted, it then goes to human capital, i.e. our Security Operations Center. And today the service is called Managed Detection Response, because I fundamentally believe that, one, there's no privacy. So those of you who are trying to hide things,
It's got to be me that said 15 years ago, get over it.
Get over it.
There is
There is no privacy. It used to be just our government that could see everything. Now it's a lot of people. And now it's kind of like your house, right? If somebody really wants to break into your house, they're going to get in. Now, the issue is how hard do you make it for them to get in? And then do you know they got in? And then can you stop them from getting to your safe or to some asset that you deem important? And that's the world that we're heading in today. It's not going to slow down. This challenge is going to get more and more challenging because there's a lot of bad actors in the world.
So one data point around there, then I want you to comment on something. So the reason you talk about no data, or data, entities have more data about you than anything else. 85%, according to Mary Baker's Internet Report, which you probably read, 85% of all online advertising goes to two companies, Google and Facebook, because they have more data and they can target, micro-target more than anybody. And you talk about protecting your personal stuff. Kind of talk about YubiKeys. Those something that, are you familiar with them?
No.
The physical keys. That yeah. I think they're called YubiKeys. Kind of talk about that. Is that real? Is that something you think is a value, or do you see kind of a canard, or it's got just one other technology that's going to be going away? Which is, it's a physical device that I think is fingerprint enabled, that is like two-factor authentication, but because they can, what is it called, spoof your phone, they can do something that can have the phone reroute to you, which is not too hard for a really sophisticated hacker to do. To have that physical key there is something that is more difficult for them to break into.
Yeah, the physical USB keys or digital keys are very, very helpful. That is to really keep away the toughest actors in the world, in my opinion, which I hope we don't get to the time and place where everybody needs that level of security. I think, simple things will help you, which is two-factor authentication. I think is a great tool for all your financial transactions. Definitely use two-factor authentication.
Everybody know what that is? No? It's okay if you don't. So a lot of services offer it, a lot of them do, and what you do is you register your cell phone. That's typically the most common. And then so when you log on, it's going to say, oh, okay, we haven't seen you in a while, maybe a week or a long time, or they do it every single time. Like when you want to wire a new, like with Chase Bank, I did it today. Needed to wire a new vendor, and then I had to basically authenticate via 8-digit code on my phone until that basically new vendor could be added to my account so I could wire. And that is what's called two-factor. I had to log in Chase, and then I had to get a text to my phone, which is a different device, and enter that in. That's two-factor.
Yeah.
One example.
It's a great example. Google Authenticator is also another great example of stuff that's not just tethered to your phone. So I would just use it wherever you can. Don't ever have the same password for work as for your personal stuff, and then your financial stuff. Your institutions use different passwords for all your financials.
Are you a one-password fan? Yes or no? Single point of failure. What do you think?
No, I've got unfortunately, I'm one of those guys that if I don't log into someplace fairly frequently, I'm always having to recover because I probably have 50 passwords.
No, I meant one password meaning the product on that.
Oh, no, one password.
Yeah,
No.
it's a single point of failure.
No, I'm not.
Okay, tell me why.
I don't trust them.
Yeah. Imagine that. Very cool. So I think I got most questions. I missed yours. I apologize.
I've got another question.
No. It's you got to put a quarter on the desk if you have another question.
But you kind of discussed a little bit on company culture. So from the very beginning, when you're starting out, what are your thoughts on being totally, as far as the leadership, being completely transparent with employees and everybody within the organization?
That's a great question. Can I make one comment before? So the other thing that I wanted to make around what they offer in cybersecurity, this is a really important thing for you to think about your business. Are you selling a vitamin or are you selling a painkiller? They're selling painkillers. Companies have to have firewalls. It's not like, we're going to make that decision. And so that puts you in a different category. What's a vitamin? Facebook is a vitamin. Kind of a successful business, but it's a vitamin. We don't need it, right? So you can be successful in both of them, but as you think about your business and be real, don't be like, hey, they've got to have my product and I'm, SoundCloud. Think about your business and are you a vitamin or are you a painkiller? Because when you do, that helps to frame how you go sell your product and you position your product. So I apologize. So
No, yeah, what you're dead on. culture. When I look back to so I grew up in the 90s in the business world. Was really, really fortunate on early in my life. And then we had these things like, some of you probably remember Enron, right?
They had great corporate culture values.
Right. There was this lack of transparency that took place. And then at the end of the day, it was malicious greed on one side of the table. And then I just watched this happen down at Enron scale with other businesses. And you're like, well, if you just operate out in the open and be what you see is what you get, then it's kind of hard to do a bad deal. Like all deals, everybody should benefit from. That's fundamentally one of my beliefs. Now, if you think about the stock market, it's something always a buyer and seller. But in business, why don't we build things where everybody gets to grow together, and that you're not just stealing market share back from one another. That is one of the differences between being in a commodity-based business versus a value-added business. But we just said, hey, we're going to establish 4 simple core values so that as business continues to grow, it would be easy to articulate to new people coming in. And then as we continue to grow, you hire people that you know have the same belief systems, or do you think that you do. You're going to make mistakes, but when you're an entrepreneur, when you first start out, the company is you, right? So you don't have to immediately establish core values. You need to start thinking about what are the things that are most important to your beliefs, and who do you want to surround yourself. What are the type of people you want to surround yourself as you continue to go down that exact same journey? So for Masergy today, it's focused service, right? We're a really customer-centric business, but the cornerstone is transparency. And so it's that is, if we're not transparent with our customers and our employees, our team members, everything that we do, then our business is just moving so fast, it won't work. And so I think that it's hard to have radical candor. You gotta have a lot of courage to do it, but it's just so much easier to, especially when things are not going so well, to sit there and brainstorm about how do you get out of this situation. What's the right thing to do for the company? What's the right thing to do for the customer? What's the right thing to do for a solution set or a product? What's the right thing to do with a vendor? The answer usually will come to a team or to an individual fairly quick if you're just ultra transparent in what you do. And then for me, it was just, I wanted away from, I wanted integrity to be something that I could go to sleep every night knowing that I hadn't took a CIO or head of infrastructure and caused them to lose their job. So I can tell you, 17 years in, nobody's ever lost their job for doing business with us. That's because we don't deliver, we make commitments that we 100% deliver on them. And that's just because we're in the enterprise, because you got to take risk on, and that was one of the fundamental challenges with the founder, is that he wasn't able to make the business reliable. You got to think, how do you weave these certain things back into it, and then how do you hire people that have that same belief system? Does that make sense?
No. Average CIO career is 22 months, and the acronym is career is over. That's the joke in the CIO industry. And they've done a great job to fight that. Any questions? Yes.
When you're talking about one of your businesses early on, your past businesses, you talked about how you grew organically. What do you mean by that? You mean like referral? Word of mouth? What do you mean?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. What that means is that we hired salespeople, and they went out and sold. Whether it was inside or telephonic sales or feet on the street, this was mostly feet on the street. Vario, the ISP that was a roll-up in the 90s, we went and grew mostly through acquisition. We did have some organic growth, but it was mostly by buying companies and integrating them into the platform.
So like just traditional marketing and sales.
Traditional marketing and sales, yeah.
Growing it through non-acquisition. Yes, 1 second, yes.
Could you elaborate a little bit about painkiller and vitamin, but not just what they are, but like how do you go on like kind of sales and marketing side of things, and how do you grow the company based on what kind of solution?
Yeah, so it's probably a little bit simpler from my perspective, which is I was looking and said, okay, I'd rather be in a market where anyone, and in this case, anyone that's over $1 billion in reps is an opportunity for us to sell, because they're going to have to buy from somebody. I think that's the illusion he's making to a painkiller. Like, you're going to need a painkiller at some point, if not fairly frequently, no matter who you are. Whereas on the flip side, you have people that buy services that are more like luxury goods, where they're probably really cool, and there's a certain segment that will adopt this service or technology or buy this product, but not everybody's going to ever buy it, because not everybody wants it. However, there's a huge amount amount of value that can be created in either one of those equations. Facebook is, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat are great technologies that have been able to capitalize on things that people don't really need, but although nowadays I think people are highly addicted to most of these.
Yeah, or think of CRM is actually vital. You can make an argument that you would buy firewall before you put it in CRM if you literally have to go $1 versus another. But that's a pretty compelling fight. And if you're vitamin selling, there are a variety of things you have to do to create a habit. You hear, and I'd be really impressed if you have heard of a book and an author called Nir, N-I-R, A-L, and the book is called Hooked. Raise your, okay. Anybody building consumer internet products or coming on the consumer side? Yes, no? Okay, then it doesn't matter. But if you are, read this book because it's the brain science behind why these products, like you just mentioned, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, Facebook, are all addictive. And it's literally brain science, and we will get into it since you guys aren't. But those are the kinds of things that you need to understand when you're a maker, when you're making product. If you don't have something they have to buy, if they have to buy, you're doing other things that add a lot of value. It's just a different, you're not worried about them checking it because they have to check it because they don't want intrusion or malware, etc. So it's the behavior of the customer and the action. I was thinking about, to be real succinct, the hook model is about a trigger, an action, a variable reward, and an investment. The trigger is, hey, go to Facebook, or I just want to, I'm bored, I want to check it. The action is, what do I have to do to get to the variable reward? In a mobile app, you just turn your hand and you're reading it. If you are using their products, you got to log in, you got two-factor authentication, etc. But you really want to get to that variable reward. And a variable reward is you're looking at your feed and you have no idea what's coming next. And the antithesis of a variable reward is your refrigerator. Open it up, white light. Close it, open it up, white light. Your brain generates no dopamine, so your brain is not interested at all in what's happening because it's seen a pattern. But when you don't know what's going to happen, your brain literally, I'll keep going. Or I'll keep swiping. If you notice, when you're swiping left on Facebook on mobile, it doesn't show you the very end. It always shows you 1/8 of the next picture. Just enough to go, oh, I see the eye. Oh, I see what that is. That's all, those are not by chance. And then the investment is you create content, you like something, you share something, you friend people, and so there's a virtuous circle there. And that's the key thing around vitamins is you have to give reasons for them to come back because there's not some other reason, legal, security, other thing that's going to compel them to come back because they have to. That's the easiest way to put it. Yes. Yeah, other questions? Yes.
Okay, here's my question. I'm pretty sure you came from a tech background, but now you're a CEO. So I'm kind of like in that same ballpark. I've been tech all my life, but now I want to be CEO because I want to give something back to the community, something back to inspire new engineers, so on and so forth. And so my problem is, since I'm the CE everything now, is I have a hard time talking to like normal, I don't mean normal people. I'm so used to talking to my friends or either other engineers or other software developers, or I do a lot of stuff in IEEE. So when I went to this, I think Golds and Saxman had some kind of thing where you
Gold Saxman,
yeah, the people that they were mentors from SCORE. They're older people. I mean older than me even. But so they just look at me like crazy because I'm talking like 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I'm really excited about my talk. Yeah. How do you articulate? I cannot articulate my. Yeah, I'm having a hard time because you did something that was a little bit futuristic. You did cloud before everybody in the world did cloud. Okay, so like I'm doing like Internet of Things integrated with artificial intelligence, and there's still a lot.
So the question is.
Yeah, how do you articulate so people understand? Because I get stuck in geek mode. And does it help you to be in geek mode as a CEO, or does it hurt you?
Some reason, like, how do you communicate?
Yeah, because sometimes I tell myself, I don't like to do the busy paperwork business stuff, so I just kind of blow it off. I'm too busy prototyping or buying new gadgets, or learning how to make a robot or something. So, I mean, how do you, I tell people I'd rather be the CTO and hire a CEO, but when you're starting it, you have to be the CEO. So did that hurt you having a tech background? Or how did you get over it? Yeah, can you cure me?
I can tell you for myself, my own experience. And I can tell you about what I've seen from other CEOs that are non-sales and marketing that grew up. One, the non-sales and marketing CEOs, even the S&P 500 outperformed the sales and marketing guys that grew up. So that's a good stat to begin with. The other thing is that if you know that you don't have a gift for taking the highly technical to almost the truth, because the challenge is, for those of us that are really technical, we understand the technology, but the vision is not necessarily what the technology does. You got to articulate a vision of where the technology might be going, or kind of simpleton terms, right? Because not everybody knows how like a car works or how a lawnmower works, and all the or a diesel locomotive, but they all see it and they know that it's something that moves things, right? So it's just being able to make it close to the truth as possible, but not necessarily the complete
Telling the
truth.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's because you want people to understand how it impacts them, or
Okay.
impacts their business, more so than what you're working on.
Yeah, so they're not.
And that's the
gonna get
problem, is that
excited.
you gotta be able to connect the dots, or kind of loosely connect the dots, but you can't draw a straight line. And those that are engineers, we want things to be finite and explicit, but when you articulate that, you can't be explicit, you've gotta be a little bit more fuzzy. But simple enough that people get the concept.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's about, you have to clearly communicate vision. I mean, there's a lot of things to do this, but I think you have to clearly communicate what you're doing, what you're about, what's your vision, so you can go get the employees, you can go get the customers, and everything else. And it doesn't start with a mission statement sometimes, and sometimes it does. And I will posit that the finest mission statement in the history of American capitalism and all that, which actually came from Robert F. Kennedy, we will send a man to the moon and back and safely return them by the end of the decade. That is measurable, it's specific, it's audacious, it's everything, right? Everybody got behind it. They understood it. It wasn't this gobbledygook about how we're going to get there. It's just, we're going to send them, we're going to bring them back, we're going to do it safely, and we're going to do it in a specific amount of time. That's an excellent example of what a mission statement and how a leader, in this case the president, can motivate people that never thought they could do that.
So how would you sell cloud?
Yes, Dan.
So I've seen you grow over the years, and from what you just said today, you're taking your company up to about $1 billion worth of value right now, right? You're
A little bit past
going to
the
get to $3 billion
Yep.
by 2021.
21, 22 is what we're shooting for.
Like Tom Hanks said, 220, 221, whatever it takes.
And you guys do a lot of stuff. You guys are a bar, you guys are a managed service provider, you guys do a lot of different things. What is your day like? And how's your life-work balance? And then where are you guys focused mostly on? Which business unit are you growing? And then are you using social media? Are you leveraging anything in particular that's out of the norm to get you to that next level? Because I know you're not sitting home watching TV because you made $1 billion.
It's a common question in these. It's like basically how do you prioritize your time?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It varies a little bit. I'll tell you, I'm not down to managing 5-minute increments like Elon Musk, but I'm definitely measuring half-hour increments. And like my schedule, there are days when I'm triple booked, and then like that morning I make decisions of what am I going to keep, what am I going to push. Unfortunately, we have the benefit of having to be out of town a few times. But it's all about the people. As you scale up, you just got to get great people to help you around you. And one of the greatest people that I have is my executive assistant, because she manages the inflow and funnel of all of the requests for people that want time. And then I've got to make a decision of where I spend my time. And I still spend about a third of my time with customers. That's still a huge priority for me. I spend about a third of my time reviewing various operations of the business and then trying to make really quick decisions of like, I'm supportive or I'm not supportive. I'm really not telling people what to do anymore, except when it comes to the long-term planning. We still get in a team and we huddle once a year. And so for me, it's just like, how do you get the right cadences for these things? And then, the one thing you can never get away from, or you'll absolutely lose sight of things, is you got to take enough of you got to still have that break, what we call clarity breaks, to where you're spending a couple hours or a half day a week kind of removed from the business and thinking more about, working on the business, as I would say, versus working in the business. In terms of trying to look at strategically what are the right things I got to do for each each of the various groups that you have. And then it just gets more complex the bigger you get. And, you know, I'd like to tell you I have work-life balance. I've gotten better over the years of being able to spend time with family and loved ones and friends. But it's just, you know, you're either an entrepreneur or you're not. And if you are, it's an affliction, like
Defective gene.
yeah, defective gene, where you'll go months where finally, you know, somebody will shake you, like your significant other, be like, you know, you're kind of a village idiot. Because when you're struggling, you know, I have a natural tendency to not only work hard on the business, but I'll find other avenues to try to blow off steam. Which, you know, I wouldn't say sitting around watching TV, but if I didn't have any kids, I'd be a professional poker player. So I would spend 12 hours playing poker somewhere, which I love to do, but not the healthiest thing to keep all your other relationships in balance.
Yeah. My definition of entrepreneurship, which you may like, is the undertaking of a business enterprise with the complete, total, utter lack of respect of the resources you currently control. Right? It's kind of sums it up.
One last question. Yes.
What about biometric security? How do you see that fitting into the whole security deal, business and personal?
Well, clearly it's advancing at a pretty rapid pace, right? We've got, you know, for those of you who have an iPhone 10,
Facial ID.
you get the facial ID. I've got friends that have been working on, well, let's put it this way. If you walk in a public venue in most modern cities, somebody knows that you're there. So, you know, like, there's certain attributes in your face that are almost as distinguishable as your fingerprint. So I think that, you know, we've got some really, really cool technology coming, and I think biometrics plays a pretty meaningful role. Just like I think, you know, our genome from a DNA standpoint is going to make a huge impact on personalized medicine. And then the one thing that you brought up, which I think is really, really cool, is that, you know, I think on the space side of the equation as a country, we're going to see a couple of missions, I think, come to life next year. One of them, well, they're already talking about it. One is colonizing the moon in a decade. The second one is colonizing Mars in 40 years. It is going to be a cooperative effort between the government and, you know, private enterprise, which I think is going to inspire, you know, hopefully a whole lot of younger people to get more involved with STEM.